Hello, Airbus Cockpit Coach here, and welcome to the channel. In this video we're going to look at managed climb and descent and selected climb and descent, and explore the differences between the two. Before we dive in, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and give the video a like. So we're here on Luton's runway 25, and we've got the only departure here inserted into our flight plan. And you can see we have a number of restrictions here, so we need to be above 4,000 feet at Delta 4344 Foxtrot, and the next waypoint level at 5,000, and the waypoint after that 6,000. When we take off, which we'll do in a moment, once we reach our acceleration altitude, we'll pull the thrust levers back into the climb detent, and the aircraft will enter climb mode, which is managed climb. So in managed climb, flight management guidance system automatically considers speed limits, acceleration altitudes, and any altitude constraints in the flight plan, and it's generally considered to be, and it's generally the most optimized way of flying, and provides standard climb and descent rates. Airbus recommend that we spend as much time in managed mode as possible, because that's the most efficient way to fly. Managed mode is selected by pulling the altitude knob for managed climb or descent. We also have managed speed mode as well, which is indicated by the 3 dashes and the dot there. Speed control in managed mode is controlled by the flight management system, so whatever's in our MCDU is what it's using, and it's best for a standard climb profile or descent profile, and of course in the cruise ensuring that we're maintaining what we've calculated in terms of our flight planning or fuel burn, so that's quite important. In selected mode, you manually choose the target speed using the FCU speed knob over here, and this gives you full control, which is perfect for ATC instructions, shortcuts or tactical flying. The general Airbus philosophy we use, if we're making short-term changes, we do it up here in the FCU. If we're making longer-term changes, we'll come down and we input those into the MCDU. So if we have a short-term heading, short-term speed restraint, or we're clear to climb or descend, those kind of short duration changes, we'll be using the FCU up here. So managed climb and descent only works when the aircraft is in nav mode, so it's following our flight plan route. If we're given a heading and we deviate from the flight plan route, the altitude and vertical speed modes will enter selected mode. That's important to remember. If we're in managed speed mode, managed speed still works when the other modes are in selected mode, which is quite useful, so we can be on a heading to final on a managed speed mode, adhering to our green dot speed and our flap limiting speed, so that's really handy. So it's only the altitude side and the vertical speed side that reverts back to selected mode if we come off nav mode. So nav mode is obviously our lateral guidance, we can be in nav mode or heading select, and selected climb or descent or vertical speed is obviously the tactical way a pilot intervenes in the course of a flight, making adjustments to fit in with air traffic control restraints, for example. So ideally we want to fly in relation to our flight plan and the constraints we have in here. We select our target altitude, pull the altitude knob, and the plane handles the rest. Speeds, climb rates and level offs, all based on performance and airspace constraints. Now it is possible to come down here and rather than just input something in selected mode or open climb or open descent, we can come in here and clear restrictions out, for example, if we didn't want a restriction in there. That's a way we can do it, but again, as I mentioned, we're generally making short-term changes up here in the FCU windows. So we'll take off and initially go into managed climb, and then we'll explore the other modes. Take off. Amplex 61 SRS runway, auto thrust blue. Thrust at 100 knots. V1, rotate. Positive climb, gear up. I'm going to throw the autopilot on so I can continue talking. So we're in nav mode, and as soon as we get to our acceleration altitude here, we'll pull the thrust levers back, and we'll go into climb mode, which we should see on the flight mode annunciators up here. There's lever climb, putting the levers back into the climb gate, and we're now in thrust climb, climb. So in this mode, this is managed mode, the aircraft will adhere to the restraints in our flight plan. So we're going to be above 4,000 here, above 5,000 at the next waypoint, Delta 344 Lima. Now let's say air traffic control, we're happy that we are able to climb now to flight level 100, and to give us that clearance we need to then disregard those waypoint restrictions. So what we do, we put our altitude in, up here it's 10,000, flight level 100, and hit the knob, and we're now in open climb. And you'll see the aircraft will now continue climbing. We're already at 5,000 feet and climbing, so we're already above that restriction there, and it's disregarding the restrictions because we have intervened in terms of what the aircraft is following in the flight plan. You can kind of call this altitude intervene, flight level change if you like. Now if we were to come on to a heading, so air traffic control give us a radar vector now, you'll see that we're no longer able to put the aircraft into climb mode. So we're using open climb, which is working in relation to our speed. So remember we discussed on the ground that the managed speed mode still works when we are in selected modes over on the altitude side and the heading side. So open climb is climbing the aircraft with reference to our managed speed. If we intervened on speed, so we increased our speed, now the nose will drop down as speed is the priority. It will adjust rate of climb and descent to achieve a particular speed. Obviously we also have vertical speed mode, which is another selected mode we can use over here. We can push it to level off. We push to level off, we've got the zeros, the aircraft will level off wherever we are. If we select now a lower altitude, let's go back down to 6,000, and we start to dial in a rate of descent, a very high rate of descent. This is one reason why we call this very silly mode, is that it disregards the speed. The speed runs away, the aircraft will target what's ever in that window. We've got a severe pitch down attitude, and it's possible to enter overspeed and dangerous speed conditions and bust speed constraints in this mode as well. See if we keep that going down. Obviously quite dangerous. So that's one thing to be aware of. You can see here we're approaching our overspeed. And most people would think, the Airbus wouldn't let you do that. But this is one mode where speed can get away from you. So levelling at 4,000 now. I'm going to put it back into open descent, so we target the speed we got over here in this window on the left. If I push that again, we go manage speed, 250 knots, and I climb the aircraft again. Now I could go back onto nav mode. We can select one of our waypoints, go direct to insert, Go open climb, flight level 100. So when we're in managed mode, the aircraft will not take the speed below VLS and will not overspeed the aircraft. So we've got some protections there, so we do lose some protections in selected mode. So let's say we're now going to descend and we're on approach, level at flight level 100. You'll see on our navigation screen here we've got 80 at Zagzo. So we want to descend. To meet that restriction, we'll put the aircraft into a managed descent, so we can go 80 in the window and select managed descent. You see you've got descent up here. So the aircraft's now going to descend at a rate to get to Zagzo at 80. And we're managed speed, so we should also adhere to these speed restrictions. In descent, at any time, if we've already seen what happens with vertical speed, so that would not adhere to speed restrictions. In open descent, so we select open descent now, that will still adhere to the managed speed we got in here, so that will adjust. But important to remember, if we open the speed window up, that is not going to adjust now for the speed restrictions. We have to do that manually. So the safest way to fly this approach and meet constraints is to do it in managed mode, managed speed and managed descent. Once we activate our approach phase and we're flying in managed mode, the aircraft will target green dot speed. So you can see our speed's coming back now to green dot speed. Obviously we can intervene at any time with that. This is quite often a stage in flights. We're sequencing for the approach where air traffic control will give us speed adjustments to adhere to sequence our aircraft into traffic, and for that we'll use the speed window up here. So initially the aircraft will hold green dot speed as long as the approach phase is activated. As soon as we select flaps 1, the aircraft will target the S speed. If we go flaps 1, speed checks flaps 1, you'll see the speed now drops and we target the S speed, which is here, so it's 185 knots. So the aircraft is actually targeting our VAP speed of 137, as you can see here in magenta, but the flaps are causing a constraint and intervening in that speed, which is why it's magenta and not blue. Once we select flaps 2, speed comes back and starts to target the VAP speed.
2,500.
So in managed mode, the speed will not drop below the VLS band, which is indicated by orange there at the bottom of the speed tape, which is our lowest selectable speed. Airbus philosophy is all about flexibility and safety. So both of those modes, managed and selected, are tools in your toolbox as a pilot, and you choose the one that best fits the situation. If you have any questions on that, please drop them in the comments box below. I'll do my best to answer those. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe to stay up to date with the latest content. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.